When sizing bonding jumpers for cable tray and conduit were not used as an equipment grounding conductor or EG, NEC Table 250.122 does not govern the sizing. However, it is best practice to bond and ground the installation using a minimum of 14 American wire gauge stranded copper wire. Ensure all cable tray sections and connected conduits are securely bonded together, and when bonding to equipment, use a grounding lug or other approved method. The cable bonding the cable tray to the grounding system can be considered an EGC and should be sized according to NEC Table 250.102c. Select the size based on the maximum phase conductor in the cable tray. Cable trays with different voltage levels, such as high voltage or HV and low voltage or LV, should be bonded together to provide a common ground reference. This is especially important if there are potential hazards such as lightning or ground faults. To determine the size of the bonding cable between the high voltage and low voltage cable trays, perform a ground fault study or follow local codes and standards. For outdoor oil tanks, the dedicated grounding system for the tank can be connected to the protective earth or P of the panel. This ensures that the panel and tank are at the same ground potential, reducing the risk of electrical shock or equipment damage. Now, let's delve deeper into each of these aspects, starting with bonding jumpers. A bonding jumper is a conductor that ensures electrical continuity and conductivity between metal parts that are required to be electrically connected. This connection creates a low impedance path for fault current. When you're not using the cable tray or conduit as the primary EGC, the bonding jumper's role is still crucial. Its purpose is to minimize voltage differences between different sections of the cable tray and the connected conduits. Even though the equipment is grounded via separate EGC cables, these bonding jumpers help to equalize potential, preventing circulating currents and reducing the risk of arcing or sparking, which can be a fire hazard or cause electromagnetic interference. The NEC doesn't explicitly dictate the size of the bonding jumper in the scenario because it's not functioning as the primary EGC. However, good engineering practice suggests a minimum size of 14 American wire gauge stranded copper wire. This size provides sufficient mechanical strength and conductivity for effective bonding. Using stranded wire is important because it's more flexible and less prone to breakage when subjected to vibration or movement. Ensure that all connections are made using approved methods such as grounding lugs or compression connectors to ensure reliable and low resistance connection. Moving on to the cable tray grounding jumper sizing, when you treat the bonding cable connecting the cable tray to the grounding system as an EGC, NEC Table 250.102c provides guidance on selecting the appropriate size. This table correlates the size of the EGC to the size of the largest unrounded conductor feeding the circuit. For example, if the largest phase conductor in the cable tray is a 500 kc mil copper cable, you would consult Table 250.102c to determine the corresponding size of the grounding electrode conductor. It's crucial to select the correct size to ensure that the EGC can safely carry the available fault current back to the source, allowing the overcurrent protective device, such as a circuit breaker or fuse, to trip and clear the fault. Remember that the EGC must have sufficient ampacity to handle the maximum potential fault current. This sizing is critical for safety, protecting equipment and personnel from electrical hazards. Now, consider the scenario where you have two cable trays with different voltage levels in separate buildings. This situation often arises in industrial facilities where high voltage power is distributed to transformers located in different areas. It is essential to bond these two cable trays together to establish a common ground reference. This is because a difference in ground potential between the two systems can create hazardous voltage gradients, which can pose a shock hazard to personnel and damage equipment. Bonding the high voltage and low voltage cable trays together equalizes the ground potential, reducing the risk of electrical shock and ensuring that protective devices function correctly. The size of the bonding cable between the two cable trays is critical. While NEC doesn't provide a specific table for this exact scenario, it's necessary to determine the appropriate size based on a ground fault study or by following local codes and standards. A ground fault study analyzes the potential fault currents that could flow between the two systems. This study considers factors such as the source impedance, conductor size, and the characteristics of the overcurrent protective devices. The bonding cable should be sized to safely carry the maximum ground fault current that could occur. In the absence of a ground fault study, it's advisable to consult with a qualified electrical engineer to determine the appropriate size of the bonding cable. Local codes and standards may also provide specific requirements for bonding different voltage systems. In some cases, these codes may specify a minimum size for the bonding cable based on the size of the largest conductors in the cable trays. When dealing with outdoor oil tanks, grounding is essential for preventing static electricity buildup and mitigating the risk of explosion. Oil tanks can accumulate static electricity due to the movement of fluids within the tank, which can create a potential difference between the tank and the surrounding earth. If this potential difference becomes high enough, it can discharge as a spark, which could ignite flammable vapors. A dedicated grounding system for the oil tank provides a path for static electricity to safely dissipate into the earth, preventing the buildup of hazardous potential. This grounding system typically consists of ground rods or ground plates connected to the tank via grounding conductors. The NEC requires that the grounding system for the oil tank be connected to the protective earth, or P, of the electrical panel that supplies power to the area. This connection ensures that the tank and the electrical system are at the same ground potential, reducing the risk of electrical shock and ensuring that protective devices function correctly. By connecting the tank's grounding system to the panel's P, you create a common ground reference point, which minimizes voltage differences and provides a safe and effective grounding system. To summarize, firstly, when sizing bonding jumpers for cable trays and conduits not used as EGC, prioritize secure connections and a minimum of 14 American wire gauge stranded copper. Secondly, for cable tray grounding jumpers treated as EGC, adhere to NEC Table 250.102C based on the maximum phase conductor size. Thirdly, bond different voltage cable trays together to maintain a common ground reference, determining the bonding cable size through a ground fault study or local codes. And fourthly, connect the grounding system of outdoor oil tanks to the panel's P for safety and potential equalization. Additionally, let's cover some important considerations for installing and maintaining these grounding and bonding systems. Proper installation is crucial for ensuring the effectiveness of the grounding and bonding systems. All connections must be clean, tight, and free of corrosion. Use appropriate connectors and tools to ensure secure and reliable connection. Avoid using dissimilar metals in the connections, as this can lead to corrosion over time. Regularly inspect the grounding and bonding systems to identify any signs of damage or deterioration. Check for loose connections, corroded conductors, and damaged grounding electrodes. Repair or replace any damaged components immediately to maintain the integrity of the grounding system. Ground testing is an important part of maintaining a safe and effective grounding system. Ground testing measures the resistance of the grounding system to ensure that it is within acceptable limits. High resistance in the grounding system can indicate a problem with the grounding electrodes or the connections. Perform ground testing regularly, especially in areas with corrosive soils or high moisture levels. Document all grounding and bonding activities, including installation, inspection, testing, and maintenance. This documentation provides a record of the grounding system and can be helpful for troubleshooting problems or for future reference. Keep the documentation up to date and readily accessible. Consider the impact of changes to the electrical system on the grounding and bonding systems. Anytime you add new equipment or modify existing circuits, re-evaluate the grounding and bonding systems to ensure that they are still adequate. Changes to the electrical system can affect the amount of fault current that is available, which can impact the sizing of the grounding conductors. Stay informed about the latest updates to the NEC and other relevant codes and standards. The NEC is updated every 3 years, and it's important to be aware of any changes that may affect your grounding and bonding systems. Attend training courses and seminars to stay up to date on the latest best practices for grounding and bonding. Grounding and bonding are essential components of a safe and reliable electrical system. By following the guidelines in the NEC and other relevant codes and standards, you can ensure that your electrical system is properly grounded and bonded, protecting people and equipment from electrical hazards. Always consult with a qualified electrical engineer or electrician when designing or installing grounding and bonding systems. They can provide expert advice and ensure that your system meets all applicable requirements. In addition to the above points, there are several other factors to consider when designing and implementing grounding and bonding systems. Soil resistivity is an important factor to consider when selecting grounding electrodes. Soil resistivity is a measure of how well the soil conducts the electricity. Soils with high resistivity require more grounding electrodes or deeper ground rods to achieve the desired grounding resistance. Soil resistivity varies depending on the type of soil, moisture content, and temperature. Consult with a qualified geotechnical engineer to determine the soil resistivity in your area. Corrosion is a major concern for grounding electrodes and conductors. Corrosion can degrade the grounding system over time, increasing the resistance and reducing its effectiveness. To prevent corrosion, use grounding electrodes and conductors that are made of corrosion-resistant materials such as copper or stainless steel. Protect the grounding electrodes and conductors from direct contact with corrosive soils or chemicals. Lightning protection is an important consideration for buildings and structures in areas that are prone to lightning strikes. A lightning protection system provides a path for lightning current to safely flow to ground, preventing damage to the building and its contents. The NEC provides requirements for lightning protection systems in Article 250. Be sure to consult with a qualified lightning protection specialist when designing and installing a lightning protection system. Electromagnetic interference, or ME, can be a problem in sensitive electronic equipment. EMI can be caused by ground loops, which are created when there are multiple paths to ground. To prevent ground loops, use a single-point grounding system where all equipment is grounded to a common ground point. Shielded cables and filters can also be used to reduce EMI. Static electricity can accumulate on non-conductive materials, such as plastic pipes and equipment enclosures. Static electricity can cause problems in sensitive electronic equipment or create a spark hazard in flammable environments. To prevent static electricity buildup, ground all non-conductive materials using static grounding straps or other grounding devices. Equipotential bonding is a technique used to minimize voltage differences between different metal parts in an electrical system. Equipotential bonding involves connecting all metal parts together using bonding jumpers to create a common ground potential. Equipotential bonding is particularly important in areas where there is a high risk of electrical shock, such as swimming pools and bathrooms. Isolated ground systems are used to reduce noise and interference in sensitive electronic equipment. In an isolated ground system, the grounding conductor for the sensitive equipment is isolated from the building's main grounding system. This prevents noise and interference from other equipment from entering the sensitive equipment. However, isolated ground systems must be installed carefully to avoid creating a shock hazard. Surge protection devices, or SPDs, are used to protect electrical equipment from voltage surges caused by lightning or other transient events. SPD divert the surge current to ground, preventing it from damaging the equipment. SPD should be installed at the service entrance and at sensitive equipment locations. Harmonics are distortions in the voltage and current waveforms that can cause problems in electrical systems. Harmonics can cause overheating of transformers and conductors, as well as malfunction of sensitive electronic equipment. To reduce harmonics, use harmonic filters or other mitigation techniques. Power quality is an important consideration for sensitive electronic equipment. Poor power quality can cause equipment malfunctions, data loss, and premature equipment failure. Power quality problems can be caused by voltage sags, voltage swells, harmonics, and other disturbances. To improve power quality, use power conditioning equipment such as voltage regulators and uninterruptible power supplies, or UPSs. Regular inspections and maintenance are essential for ensuring the continued safety and reliability of grounding and bonding systems. Inspections should be performed at least annually and more frequently in harsh environments. Maintenance should include tightening connections, cleaning corroded surfaces, and replacing damaged components. Keep detailed records of all inspections and maintenance activities. Training is essential for personnel who work with electrical systems. Personnel should be trained on the proper procedures for grounding and bonding, as well as the hazards of electricity. Training should be provided on a regular basis to ensure that personnel are up to date on the latest best practices. Documentation is essential for all aspects of grounding and bonding. Keep detailed records of all grounding and bonding systems, including design drawings, installation records, inspection reports, and maintenance records. This documentation will be invaluable for troubleshooting problems and for future reference. Codes and standards are constantly evolving, so it's important to stay up to date on the latest requirements. The NEC is updated every 3 years, and there are also numerous other codes and standards that may apply to your electrical system. Attend training courses and seminars to stay up to date on the latest requirements. Grounding and bonding are complex topics, but they are essential for ensuring the safety and reliability of electrical systems. By following the guidelines in this narration and consulting with qualified professionals, you can ensure that your electrical system is properly grounded and bonded. Always remember to prioritize safety when working with electricity and never hesitate to ask for help if you are unsure about something. This information is for educational purposes only and should not be considered a substitute for professional advice. Always consult with a qualified electrical engineer or electrician before making any decisions about your electrical system.